Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2025 Winter Patent Knowledge Examination Candidate Orientation Session. My name is Jen Slobodkin, and I am joined today by my colleague Tifan. Tifan will introduce herself and explain the interpretation option to listen in French.
Bonjour, hi, I'm Tiffaine Camus. I've been working with Jen for like almost over 2 years now. Welcome. Pour nos agents francophones, nous avons des interprètes qui vont vous traduire cette présentation. Pour avoir accès à la présentation en français, il faut cliquer en bas de votre écran sur le globe, et vous cliquez sur Français. Donc, nos interprètes sont très talentueux et ils vous aideront lors de cette présentation pour la traduction. Merci à tous et bon webinaire. All right, so let's take a look at the agenda. So we're going to talk about so many different things. So first, the exam date, the test specifications, the exam platform, the candidate instructions, and then very question that comes back a lot is when I'm going to get the results. So, and how we score the exams, the process, the frequently asked questions, and then how to contact us in case of if you have any questions or any issue. For your information, we'll spend quite a lot of time after this presentation answering your questions. Okay, so very important piece of information that I think now everybody is aware of. The exam will take place in 3 weeks on February 25th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you very much, Tifan, for that opening information. Now let's dive right into the test specifications. CPATA develops each examination using a set of test specifications approved by the registration committee to ensure the exams test defensively. The test specifications, which you can find on our website, outline what an exam will measure in terms of content domain, as well as guidelines on how the content is measured. Such guidelines are expressed in terms of structure, which includes information about format, length, and cognitive level, and context, which means the circumstances in which examination questions are framed and that can influence their interpretation. The content weights for the qualifying exams were set by a group of practicing agents with guidance from a psychometrician. These weights were informed by average criticality and importance ratings from the large-scale competency validation survey administered in September of 2022. The recommended content weights were presented to the registration committee for their approval. The knowledge examinations are set for 4 hours. They are closed book and they consist of 135 multiple choice questions, up to 10% of which may be marked as non-scored or experimental. The non-scored items do not count toward the final score, but are used to gather data on item performance for future test forms. For the 2025 examinations, the non-scored items are selected after the exam based on item analysis. In future years, the non-scored items will likely be selected in advance of the exam administration, though this could change following item analysis. Candidates are not advised which items are non-scored to ensure valid data. In the case of these knowledge examinations, 3 hours would typically be adequate for most test takers. Given that time pressure is not a tested construct on the knowledge examination, and given accessibility goals, the time to complete the examination was set at 4 hours. The knowledge examinations use a closed book format where the items are designed to test general understanding of core concepts rather than information retrieval. Test takers are encouraged to prepare by reviewing source materials with the goal of understanding key concepts and familiarizing themselves with important sections of relevant legislation. A closed book format was selected for the knowledge exams for the reasons of test quality and for reducing time pressures. For test quality, the ideal knowledge-based test items focus on understanding of core concepts rather than on minute details or information retrieval skills. Such items better test core constructs, which improves validity, and require less frequent updates, which improves reliability. In terms of reducing time pressure, a closed book exam tends to rely less on time pressure. This can be especially beneficial to those who are multilingual, those with test anxiety, and those requiring various accommodations. The examination is administered using a computer-based testing platform supported by Paradigm Testing. The examination will be remotely proctored using live proctors from Monitor EDU. French-speaking proctors are available upon request. Please contact the registration department at CPATA to request a French-speaking proctor if you wish to do so.
Here are the requirements for taking the exam. The specific technical requirements are available in the instructions and protocol guide, which are posted on the website. In order to complete the exams, you will need the following: a laptop or desktop computer, the most recent version of the secure browser. This is really important. You must make sure that you uninstall any previous versions of the secure browser and install the newest version. Even if the link is the same, the actual application has been updated. No, there are French directions located at the bottom. Please scroll to access them if needed. You will also need a mobile phone running at least Android OS 6.0 or Apple iOS 12.0 with a functioning camera and microphone. Google Meet app downloaded to your mobile device, a steady and reliable internet connection. Wi-Fi will be required for mobile streaming, with a minimum upload speed of 1 megabytes per second. A 6-foot extension cord and phone cord, a phone stand or something to prop the mobile phone on, government-issued ID, candidate ID, which is provided on your confirmation of exam registration issued by CPATA. That means we will send you an email very soon with that information. And finally, a quiet venue. You must be alone in the room. Here are some tips for setting up your room. There is a video linked in the setup guide. Please keep these things in mind when setting up your testing environment. There should be adequate lighting. Walls should be blank. Your table or desk should be clear, other than your laptop computer. The areas beneath the desk and chair should be clear. The computer and mobile phone should be plugged in for the duration of the exam. You should have within reach a 6-foot extension cord and use it, if requested by the proctor, to move the computer and mobile phone. You should inform other individuals that may share space with you about your exam date and time, and confirm that they will remain quiet during the exam and will not enter the exam room. You must be alone in the exam room for the duration of the exam. No one can enter the exam room during the exam. And finally, non-required electronics and any security or recording devices in the room must be turned off and put away in a safe place so that you will not be able to reach them. We strongly encourage everyone test the exam platform with an exam proctor between February 17th and 21st. This is true even if you have previously tested before. The live proctor checking instructions are provided in the instructions and protocol guide. Proctors are available 24/7. You do not need to schedule anything, you just click on the link. You will be able to test your computer system and ensure everything works properly before the exam or written the following week. This is not a full mock practice exam. You will only be presented with the published practice exam questions again. This is to give candidates more familiarity with the platform and what to expect on exam days. The instructions for connecting with the proctor for the checking are published in the examination instruction protocol on the preparation page for the patent exam. Great.
Thank you, Tiffany. So now we're going to go through some candidate instructions to prepare for the exam days and then also for exam day itself. The first, in terms of preparation, it's important that you test your equipment. As Tiffany mentioned, there is a live proctor check-in the week of February 17th to the 21st, where you will be able to connect with a proctor to go through the setup process, the security process, and confirm the technology is working for you. Even if you have already tested with CPATA, it is very important that you go through this live proctor check-in, as the system might have changed since the last time you wrote the exam. So please make sure that you connect with a proctor the week of February 17th to the 21st. On February 14th, you will receive your confirmation of registration, and you'll also receive an email from Monitor EDU reiterating the instructions for the live proctor check-in. Preparation for exam day, you also want to have your government-issued photo ID with you so that the proctor can confirm your identity during the check-in process. And finally, Tiffany mentioned this earlier, but you will be issued a candidate number or candidate ID. This is a unique number provided to each candidate for the exam administration. It is not your CPATA ID. And on your confirmation of registration that you will receive next Friday, it will provide you with your candidate ID. Again, this is a unique and anonymized number provided to each candidate for each exam administration. So if you have written the exam before, you will get a new candidate ID for this exam administration. On the exam day itself, it's very important that you connect with a proctor and fill out the sign-in form. These steps are listed in the instructions protocol that is posted on the website. It's very important. Step 1 is very important because if you don't connect with a proctor, then you won't be able to access the exam. You must connect with the proctor first. They will go through the check-in process, the security check, the room setup check, and then when everybody is settled, we'll release the exam codes. Step 2, it's important that you have Google Meets, the Google Meet app downloaded onto your phone and ready to go. Step 3, again, have your government-issued picture ID and your candidate number ready for the proctor during the check-in process. Step 4, after you complete the check-in process with the proctor, then they will release the codes to log into the exam platform and start the examination. It is important that you connect with a proctor before the exam start time at 1 o'clock. Proctors are often assisting more than one candidate log into the exam, so helping ensure everyone starts on time, it would be important to connect with a proctor around noon and no later than 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, all of these instructions are provided in the instructions and protocol guide. On exam days, there are specific things that you are not allowed to have access to during the examination. The first would be a mobile phone. Now, allow me to clarify. The only mobile phone that you are allowed to have with you is the one that you are using for proctoring purposes. You cannot have access to any other mobile phones or electronic devices. You are not permitted to have access to headphones or headsets. You are not permitted to have any handheld computers or other electronic devices with you. No watches, no wallets, no purses, bags, or coats. No books, notes, or any other materials are permitted. You may not wear hats or other head coverings unless they are worn as a religious observance. And this is all for exam security purposes. On exam day, you're also allowed to have a few things with you, other than the items that I listed. And there's a couple of other pieces of information related to exam days that we wanted to share with you. The first is related to incident reports. Monitor EDU uses Google Meet to support their proctoring services. This allows the exam sessions to be recorded. The recordings are saved with Monitor EDU for a finite period of time. Therefore, if something occurs during the exam that you think that we should be aware of, you need to send an email request to schedule@monitoredu.com with your name, candidate number, and the date of the exam when the incident occurred to request that they share the recording with CPATA for further investigation. These requests must be submitted to Monitor EDU prior to the results being released. This is also in the candidate guide, so you can check the candidate guide for these details as well. Snacks and water. You may have a drink with you, but it must be in a clear vessel, which means a clear bottle, a cup, or a glass. It cannot have any labels on it. If you have a bottle with a label on it, you must remove the label. You may also have snacks with you, but they must be in a clear Ziploc style bag so that the proctor can see what is in the bag. Also, please tell the proctor at the beginning when you're checking in that you'd like to have snacks with you so that they are aware. You will receive an email confirmation from Monitor EDU the week before the exam that will provide you with the protocol for the exam days and some system setup information. This is the same information that you can find right now in the instructions and information protocol document. Earplugs. If you wish to wear earplugs during the exam, they will need to be new foam earplugs that are still in the package. Candidates must open them in front of the proctor. Candidates must advise CPATA if they wish to use earplugs prior to the start of the exam so that the proctors can be informed. Jewelry. To support the integrity of exam security, you will be asked to remove any jewelry before the exam, and that includes earrings, necklaces, bracelets, etc. Given that this is a closed book exam, you cannot have any materials with you at all, as I mentioned. You cannot have scrap paper, you cannot have anything to write with. This will impact the security of the examination. Multiple monitors are not permitted on this exam. Candidates can only use one monitor, but if you have multiple monitors, you can choose which monitor you use if you have that type of setup. So if you have a laptop and a larger monitor and you want to write the exam on the larger monitor, as long as you can set it up so that only one monitor is in use, then it doesn't matter to us which monitor you use to take the exam, but only one is permitted at a time. Bathroom breaks. Time is not added back for bathroom breaks, but they are permitted. The exam is only paused or time is only added back for those approved for accommodations. When a candidate leaves the testing area for a bathroom break, the proctors will perform another security check when the candidate re-enters the testing area. Candidates who are absent from the testing area for an extended period of time, for example, longer than a couple of minutes, or who take frequent breaks will be flagged for exam security issues. If exam security issues are detected, the candidate's examination attempt may be invalidated and further steps may be taken. In the event of any technical issues, candidates must get the proctor's attention. This will allow the candidate to communicate with the proctor, who will assist them. Time is only added back or the exam is only paused if the issue was beyond the candidate's control.
You have a maximum of 4 hours to complete your examination. All exams will be submitted 4 hours after you have started your exam. It is your responsibility to ensure that your environment is adequate for testing. The examination is being displayed in the language of choice you selected on your registration form. Computer problems, internet-related difficulties, and connectivity issues, including problems resulting from a power outage, should be directed to the live proctor during the exam. As this is an individual examination, you're strictly forbidden from consulting any other individuals or materials. Late start. Any time missed due to late start, which was not attributed to a technology issue, will be deducted from the total examination time. Read the questions carefully. Exam 8 translations. A PDF of the French version of the exam has been included as an Exam 8 in the platform. You can review the French questions and response options using that PDF if needed throughout the exam. Exit survey. Upon submission of the exam, you will be presented with a link to an optional survey that asks about any issue you may have experienced during the exam. To complete the survey, click on Survey on the submission page. A new window will open with the survey questions. Please complete the survey and click Submit. Once the survey has been submitted, close the Survey tab and then click on Close on the exam submission page. Note that once your exam has been submitted and you're presented with the survey page, you will not be able to go back into the exam. The system will ask you to confirm you wish to submit your exam before the submission is made.
Okay, let's take a look at the exam platform. Once you have connected with the proctor and been checked in, you'll receive the link to the exam. You will have a username and a password, so you enter those things and then you click Login. You will then see the exams on the dashboard. Click on Start Test to begin the exam. On the first page, before the exam starts, you will be presented with the instructions for the exam and the candidate agreement. You must read through the instructions and agree to the candidate agreement before the exam will launch. So at this point, the timer has not started yet. You can take your time reviewing these instructions and reviewing the candidate agreement without any worry about losing time on the exam. You'll also note that the instructions and the candidate agreement are posted on the sample exam that are currently on our website. So if you'd like to familiarize yourself with the instructions and the agreement before the exam day, you're able to do that using the sample exam links that are on our website. In terms of navigation and question review, it's important to know that you have different options for navigating through the questions. You can use the previous or next buttons that are under each question. You can click on the question numbers at the bottom of the screen to jump to a question that you want to see. Or you can navigate to attempted, incomplete, or flagged questions using the question review function. Flagged questions means that you've added a bookmark to that question, maybe because you aren't sure how to respond to it, or you want to review your answer before you complete the examination. That being said, we strongly recommend that candidates confirm that all questions have been answered before they submit the examination. Questions that are blue have been answered, which means you have selected a response for that question. Questions that are green have not yet been answered. I encourage you to check the question review section in the bottom right corner during the exam and at the end of the exam to ensure that you have answered all of the questions before submitting your exam. You can also scroll through the questions along the bottom to confirm that all of them have been marked off as blue and that none of them are still green. Here is a sample view of what a multiple choice question might look like on the exam platform. Here are a few functions that I'd like to point out. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see an arrow pointing to a counter clock, and that clock will be set to 4 hours and will be counting down from 4 hours when you launch the examination. So there's no need for you to have a clock in the room. There's no need for you to have a cell phone or a watch that is telling you the time, because the exam counts for each individual candidate how much time is left for them. You'll see in the middle of the screen toward the left side, I'm pointing to the next and the previous buttons. Those are the navigation buttons I was referring to before. Underneath that, you'll see the list of questions in green boxes. So you'll be able to navigate through the questions that way as well. On the right side of the screen, there is an arrow pointing to the exam aids. And that is a little tab that if you click on it, it will open and present you with a notepad. So if you wanted to take any notes for yourself, then you can use the notepad feature. Also, you'll be able to access the PDFs of the exams in those exam aids section. So both the English and the French PDFs will be available in the exam aids section if you wanted to view the question in a different format. Finally, on the bottom right corner of the page, you will see the Submit button, and that is the button that you would click once you have completed the examination and you want to submit your answers. So you don't click on that button after each question, you only click on that button at the very end of the examination. And you'll see a pop-up window asking you to confirm you wish to submit the exam, just in case you accidentally click it and you aren't actually done. So here are some other additional features mentioned. You can see what the notepad looks like if you click on the exam aids. And there's also a highlight and strike through feature. So if you select the text that you want to highlight or strike through, then those two options will appear. And you can highlight or strike through anything in the stem or any text in any of the answer options as you are going through the questions to help you answer them if that is something that you wish to use. You can also re-highlight the text and then remove the highlight and remove the strike through if you accidentally do it or you don't want to see it anymore. This was something that we added in terms of information for this year because we heard from some candidates that during the exam, the font increase or decrease functionality didn't update the text size enough for the candidate to see the full question. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do to see the question either bigger or smaller. You can use the font increase or decrease functionality to change the size of the text. And I'll show you that when I stop sharing my screen. I'll show you the sample exam and we can go through that functionality. You can also use Control plus or Control minus on the browser, the actual secure browser itself, to zoom in or zoom out of the exam window screen, or however you increase or decrease the sizes of your browsers if you're not using a PC. And you can also review the question in the exam aid PDF. So there's 3 different ways to kind of see the exam question and change the size of the question if for any reason any part of the question is being cut off for you. This can be helpful for candidates with smaller monitors where the text may be cut off for some of the questions. Troubleshooting. There's a couple of things that you need to know in terms of troubleshooting, different scenarios. And after I'm done explaining these situations, then Tifan will go through the process of how to get the proctor's attention if you have to deal with any troubleshooting issues. Power outage. A power outage is a sudden loss of electricity that interrupts the exam delivery or causes the test taker's devices to shut down. If a candidate loses power and the device shuts down, then first and foremost, you need to remain calm. If the computer is off, then the exam timer should automatically be paused. The candidate should get the proctor's attention to let them know what has happened, and then the proctor will guide them on what to do next. In severe situations, Monitor EDU will escalate the issue to CPATA, and we'll talk about backup options if the power is not restored right away. Network connectivity issues. Problems with internet connectivity that prevent test takers from accessing the exam platform or cause them to freeze or disconnect. If a candidate has internet connectivity issues, they will need to let the proctor know right away. The proctor will then ask the candidate to restart their computer. While this is happening, if the candidate has access to the internet or to the internet router or modem, they will need to restart it as well. If the issue does not resolve itself, then Monitor EDU will escalate it to CPATA, and again, we'll talk about backup options if the issue persists. Technical issues or software malfunction with the platform. Issues with the exam software, such as errors, bugs, or incompatibilities, or crashes that interfere with exam delivery or prevent test takers from progressing through the exam. If a candidate experiences any of these issues, they need to contact the proctor right away for troubleshooting assistance. The proctor can't help you if you don't notify them that there is an issue. So instead of spending time trying to resolve any issues on your own, the best suggestion that we have is to connect with a proctor right away, get their attention, and go through the troubleshooting process. Now, Tifan will explain how to connect with a proctor and get their attention.
If you need the proctor at all during an exam, please say your name and raise your hand and wait for the proctor to connect back through audio with you. Proctors can manage more than one test taker at the same time. So if it takes them a minute to respond, it could be that they're assisting another test taker. If they do not respond, please pick up your phone and wave at the camera or hold your phone so they can see that you need something. Please do not disconnect from the video chat without talking to the proctor first.
Great, thank you, Tifan. Now, since we know how to use the platform and what to expect on exam day, I'd like to turn our attention to results and scoring. There's no single method to determine a defensible pass mark for all tests or purposes. Different methods are suited to different circumstances. As a licensing body, CPATA needed to select an approach to standard setting based on the purpose of the examination, which is to assess entry-level competency, as well as how closely the method aligned with the assessment goals. For a high-stakes licensing examination, in other words, a test with important consequences, the selected standard setting approach must relate to the purpose of the exam, be appropriate to the level of complexity of the competencies being assessed by the exam, be appropriate to the specific format of the exam, for example, multiple choice or performance-based, be supported by scholarly research supporting its use, and for practical reasons should reflect the availability of resources, which include money, time, expertise in statistical analysis, and availability of experts. In 2023, the registration committee approved the methodologies which will be used on the new examinations to determine the pass marks. For the knowledge examination, they approved the modified Angoff method. The modified Angoff method is the most well-studied and documented standard setting method. It is the most commonly used method for setting cut scores in credentialing contexts, and it uses a standards referenced approach, which means that the pass mark will reflect the standard and expectations of the profession. A minimum standard is determined through a systematic standard setting process that involves a panel of subject matter experts, which are practicing agents. These panelists will make ratings based on the expected performance of a minimally competent candidate for each exam item. The total number of scored questions a candidate answers correctly on the examination, each worth 1 point, will be compared to this minimum standard to determine the result. All candidates will receive a performance report which outlines their performance on the knowledge examination. This report includes the overall result of competency demonstrated or competency not yet demonstrated. The result competency demonstrated means that performance on the exam met or exceeded the minimum standard, showing a general understanding of the core concepts associated with trademark practice. This result indicates that the candidate has the entry level, I said trademark, I meant patent, my apologies. This result indicates that the candidate has the entry level foundational knowledge necessary to support future learning and development in this area. Subject to meeting other requirements, the result means the candidate is eligible to register for the patent agent skills examination. The result, competency not yet demonstrated, means that performance on the exam did not meet the minimum standard. The candidate did not yet prove a sufficient understanding of the core concepts associated with patent practice. The candidate may have gaps in their understanding of foundational patent knowledge and the application of key patent principles. This result suggests that the candidate may need further preparation and study before attempting the patent agent skills examination or engaging in patent agent practice. The performance report also will include an overall performance descriptor that compares the candidate's performance to the minimum standard. This information, along with measurement variability data, informs an estimate of how close the candidate's performance was to the passing standard. Measurement variability data is a statistical summary that represents the dispersion or spread of data points in a data set. The performance categories are above the standard. This means that the candidate's performance on the exam was above the passing standard. Demonstrating competence beyond the minimum requirements. Just meets the standard means that the candidate's performance on the exam just met the passing standard, demonstrating a satisfactory level of competence. Approaches the standard means that the candidate's performance was close to the passing standard, showing some potential. However, some improvement is needed to meet the standard. And below the standard means the candidate's performance on the exam was below the passing standard and improvement is needed. Candidates who receive an overall result of competency demonstrated would receive a corresponding performance descriptor of either above the standard or just meets the standard. Candidates who receive an overall result of competency not yet demonstrated would receive a corresponding performance descriptor of either approaches the standard or below the standard. Finally, the performance report will list the knowledge areas tested on the exam, as well as the percentage of questions on the exam related to each area. Knowledge areas with more questions have a greater effect on overall performance. The performance details show whether the candidate's performance in each knowledge area meets, which means is equal to or exceeds, or is below a minimum threshold that is set for each area during the standard setting process. It's important to keep in mind that only the total score for the exam will determine the result. There is no separate pass mark for each of the separate knowledge areas. Stronger performance in one area can offset weaker performance in another. Keep in mind that the area level results are based on fewer questions than the overall result, making them less reliable for predicting future performance. For this reason, the meets or below insights should only be used to help candidates better assess or self-assess their knowledge of these areas, but not as a definitive statement of their ability. Now, we understand that test takers may be used to seeing specific scores on exams, and that these scores provide a tangible measure of performance. However, the primary purpose of our qualifying exams is not to rank order test takers or to precisely measure their depth of knowledge or skill. Rather, it's to determine whether a test taker has achieved a certain level of competence. The important question is not how much better did one person do compared to another, but has this person met the minimum level of competence required to practice safely and effectively? Think of the licensing process in terms of a series of hurdles. The goal of completing these hurdles isn't necessarily about how much faster one person is than another. The primary objective is to determine whether each person can successfully complete each hurdle. A person who clears the hurdles by 1 inch is just as successful in this context as a person who clears them by a foot. In a similar vein, our qualifying exams work more like a series of hurdles rather than a race against other competitors. As such, the score isn't as meaningful as the overall decision of competency demonstrated or competency not yet demonstrated. You can also think of pass marks as analogous to a height requirement for an amusement park ride. When you approach a ride, there is a sign indicating a height that guests must be a certain amount of inches or feet or centimeters or whatever to ride. The point of this measure isn't to see who the tallest person is, but it's to ensure that everyone on the ride meets a minimum height for safety reasons. Similarly, our exam isn't about who achieves the highest score or who's the tallest, but whether each candidate has reached the necessary height or level of competence to practice the profession safely and effectively. Additionally, focusing on the result rather than the numerical score can help reduce unhelpful competition amongst test takers, which can then lessen test-related stress. Our goal is to ensure that each licensed individual is qualified and competent. We have chosen this method of reporting for our exams because we believe that this method best serves that purpose. This approach focuses on the goal of achieving general proficiency rather than encouraging test takers to chase after a high score. Finally, you may be wondering if you can challenge the result of your examination. The short answer is no, you cannot. The long answer is the process used to create, administer, and score the knowledge examinations employed psychometric best practices at every stage to ensure that it was valid, reliable, defensible, and fair. This included item development, where practicing agents were recruited to develop the item bank for the knowledge exams. Each agent received a development assignment, which was coordinated to ensure the mix of items and their content area aligned with the proportion of items that appear in each test form as required by the test specifications. They were required to adhere to an item development guide, which helped item developers create quality test items. This guide outlined fundamentals, recommended best practices specific to developing multiple choice questions, and writing conventions that apply to all items of various types. It also included item review. After the items were developed, they underwent a rigorous review process to ensure that the questions were appropriate and that the answer key was correct. This included a peer review, where an independent subject matter expert, meaning someone other than the person who developed the item, reviewed items for content and quality. And that means alignment to the test specifications in terms of competency and cognitive level, suitable level of difficulty, and whether the answer key was correct. It then underwent a psychometric review, where a psychometrician reviewed the items to confirm that they adhered to defensible item development practices. The items were then translated into French and then underwent a translation review, where another group of independent subject matter experts who happened to be bilingual practicing agents not involved in the item development process reviewed the items to ensure that the items in each language were equivalent and that they meant the same thing. Finally, an exam committee review occurred where a subgroup of the Skills Exam Advisory Group members completed a final review to identify any outstanding issues or concerns. After all of the reviews were completed, the exam form was assembled in accordance with psychometric best practices and the approved test specifications. The form was assembled and randomly sequenced in a way to balance content area and cognitive level. Once the form was assembled, it was piloted by a group of practicing agents. An item analysis was conducted by a psychometrician to flag any items that required review, and any outstanding issues related to those items were resolved. Now, after the exam is administered, we complete a standard setting process as previously described. During this process, the psychometricians will conduct another item analysis with the data from the real administration. The exam advisory group members will then complete a key validation process where they review and validate items flagged during item analysis. During item analysis. During this process, the answer key might be corrected. An item could be scored with 2 or more keyed answers. All candidates may be awarded credit, or the item may be marked as a non-scored experimental item. The standard setting process occurs to derive the proposed pass mark. The registration committee will then meet to approve the pass mark, and the results file will be generated using that information. The results file is also reviewed for accuracy before generating the performance reports. In summary, we have implemented checks and controls in the development, review, and scoring process to verify the accuracy of the results. This includes investigating and resolving any discrepancies or questions before releasing performance reports. In addition, before notifying any test taker of a result of competency not yet demonstrated, we engage in an administrative review of that result. The review is automatic and is at no cost to the test taker. For this reason, performance reports results are considered final when they are published. The knowledge exams are going to be offered twice starting in 2025. Because agents in training complete their training programs at different times throughout the year, and the dates of the examinations are fixed on an annual basis, to ensure fairness, all agents in training are permitted to attempt the knowledge exam up to 4 times. Agents in training who do not attempt the knowledge exam within 2 years after the day on which they complete their training program will be required to provide and complete a remedial training and education plan. Sorry, one second. Tickle in my throat. Agents in training who do not yet demonstrate competency on the knowledge exam after 4 attempts will be required to provide and complete a remedial training and education plan before being permitted to attempt the exam again. Agents in training who have attempted the knowledge exam and request a delay in writing a subsequent administration of the exam for a reason beyond their control, and who don't attempt it again within a period of 2 years, will also be required to provide and complete a remedial training and education plan. Now, what if there are circumstances or irregularities that you experience during the exam? CPATA uses various methods to detect and address issues and irregularities. At the end of each exam administration, as Tifan described, we solicit feedback from test takers about extenuating circumstances that they believe materially impaired their exam performance. Additionally, CPATA actively seeks and analyzes information from test takers, exam administrators, and experts to identify irregularities in an exam administration, including misconduct. In the case of extenuating circumstances or any irregularity, CPATA reserves the right to withhold any result, to nullify or invalidate any exam submission, to subject any exam or part thereof to further review, and to take other action, including disciplinary action if appropriate, in order to preserve the administration of the licensing process. So the next administration after the winter exam will be the spring exam, and that will occur on June 10th, 2025. So if you write the winter knowledge examination and you are unsuccessful, meaning you receive a result of competency not yet demonstrated, then you will be able to attempt the examination again in June. And that will give you another attempt to try to establish your eligibility for the skills exams before they occur in the fall. In terms of preparation and resources, resources are available on our website to assist candidates in preparing for the knowledge exam. This includes the candidate guide, the setup guide, what to study, the test specifications, and the sample exam. And if as soon as Tifan goes through the contact slide, then I'm going to share a different screen and show you what the actual exam platform and some of these resources look like.
All right. Well, before I start this slide, just for your information, you will have access to those slides, and the webinar is being recorded, and we'll put that on our websites in the next couple of days, I believe, because that question comes back all the time. So you can review that. And if you have any other question, any other issues, you can call us or email us at registration-inscription@CPATA-CABAMC.ca. You can also, if you have any question regarding proctoring, you can contact Monitor Edu. You can reach them by email, or you can speak to a live agent by clicking the link here.
Great.
And feel free. We know we gave you lots of information today, and digest this information, review the slides and the video recording. And if you have any other questions or any concerns, feel free to reach us out at a later date. Thank you, Jen.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much, Tifan. I'm going to stop the screen sharing and share the actual resources page with everybody. So you can have a look at that while we are waiting for any questions to come through. All right, so I will share this screen. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see the preparation page for the patent agent qualifying examinations. On this page, you'll see the links to the Patent Knowledge Exam Candidate Guide, the exam instructions and protocol document that I was referring to. So these are the two documents that are very important for you to review before the exam is written in a few weeks. In terms of what to study, we have combined the technical competency profile with the test specifications in one document so that candidates can have a better idea of the types of things or types of knowledge concepts that are going to be on the knowledge exam. So you can see here the first category knowledge area is foundational patent knowledge, and approximately 34% of the exam will be based on that category. So on the right column, you can see all of the various knowledge sources and concepts that were taken from the technical competency profile, where questions have been developed from that area. Similarly, 11% is related to strategy, and these are the different knowledge concepts that are related to strategy that you might see a question on the examination. So this will help you kind of focus your studying and your preparation for the knowledge exam. If I was a candidate that was preparing for this exam, I would likely make this list of concepts. I would make sure that I knew the definition of what that concept was, or I had an understanding of what that concept was, and how to apply that concept, because the knowledge exams are 80% remembering and understanding, and approximately 20% applying and analyzing. So you should know the knowledge concept, but you should also know how to apply the knowledge concept in the context of a multiple choice question. You can also see the test specifications on this page, so you can click on that, and that just brings you to the document where we took screenshots for the slide about the knowledge area and the breakdown of marks. For the sample knowledge exam questions, if you click on Sample Patent Knowledge Examination, then the sample exam will launch, and you can read the instructions, as I mentioned, before you actually sit to take the examination. You can also read the candidate agreement and terms and conditions ahead of time. Click on Accept and then Start, and it will launch the practice exam for you. So as I mentioned here, along the bottom, you will see all of these questions are in green because I have not responded to anything yet. As soon as I answer one of those questions, then the box has turned to blue, and that identifies that I have answered that question. The font functionality is down here. So if you click on font, then you can increase or decrease the size of the font on the exam platform. This little navigation bar down here also tells you how much of the exam you've completed. So out of 15 questions, I have completed 1, which is approximately 7% of the exam. The top right-hand corner, you can see that the counter has started back from 4 hours. So that will give you the full 4 hours to do the exam. Wanted to highlight this text here, that I just select the text and click on highlight. If I want to remove that highlight, then I just click on remove highlight after selecting the text again. In the exam aids, you will see this is the French version of the exam. You will be able to see the French version or the English version in a chart form on this PDF exam aids. The question review functionality is down here. So you can see I've attempted 1 and I have incomplete. So if I click on review incomplete, then it would list the 14 questions down here that I have not completed yet. And then if you click on review all, then all of the questions will come back up for you. So say I've completed all of the exam questions and I want to submit the exam. I click on submit. As I mentioned, this little pop-up message will show up to make sure that you are actually ready to submit your exam. If you click on yes, then the exam will be submitted. And this is the page that will have the link to the survey. So right now it says the survey link is not active. It will be active for the live administrations, but you would be able to click on the link here. It will open up a new tab on your browser. You can fill out the survey, submit the survey, and then it will bring you back to this page, at which time you would click close, and then the exam is considered submitted. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. I hope that you were able to see that. Was I sharing my screen, Tifan? Did you see that during? Okay, I just want to make sure because then it disappeared. So yeah, that's pretty much what the exam platform will look like and what you can do to prepare for the exam. I'm just going to start going through the Q&A now just to see if there's any questions that we haven't answered yet. There are a few questions about multiple monitors. So I think that we've already answered those questions. There's a question about checking in with the proctor before 1 and if somebody has to remain in the room. So yes, you have to remain in the room once you have checked in with a proctor. If you have to leave the room, then you have to go through the process of notifying the proctor that you need to leave the room, and they will need to redo the security check when you re-enter the room. So it is possible for you to, say you set up, you get everything ready to go, but then you want to use the washroom really quickly before you start the exam. That would be permitted, but you have to make sure that you advise the proctor that you're going to do that. Then they will repeat the security check when you come back in. Okay. Oh, somebody is asking how to make a note. That is a good question. 1 second, I will reshare my screen. Relaunch the sample exam and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so in the exam aids, you click on that little button here, because the first one was the PDF. Oh, I haven't started sharing there. Okay, now that you should see it. In the exam aids, so you click on this little tab down here, and then the red buttons are the PDFs. But if you click on the little green notepad icon, then you can add notes. So add notes here, review question 10. Again, not sure about the answer to 12 or 13, whatever it is. So every time, then you can click on it to close it. And when you open it back up and go to the note, then your note is still there. So that is how you would use the note function. Okay, so somebody's also asking where they should place the mobile phone for the proctor to view. That is something that you go through with the proctor when you're doing your live proctor check-in. So it's hard for me to kind of explain to you where that should go because everybody has a different setup for their exam environment. But pretty much the phone has to be set up so that they can see the area around you. So you're going to be on camera from your actual computer itself. And then you'll also have the Google Meet on your phone. So it will have to be set up so that it can see you taking the exam so that we can confirm like there's no notes under your desk or there's no other people in the room telling you answers or anything like that. So the highlight and strike through function does not work on the PDF. So that's a good question. There's a question about whether the highlight and strike through functionality works on the PDF, and it is not set up to do that. So you'd only be able to use the highlight and the strike through functionality on the platform, the actual exam question platform part, but not the actual exam aids. Okay. Sorry, just give me 1 second. My cat is yelling. I'm going to put myself on mute and let him into my office. But while anybody else is having any questions, we'll just be back in 1 second.
If you have any questions in French, you can write them down in French and I will translate them for Jen.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Anybody else have any questions about the examination? Oh, that's a very good question. So we've had a question about expecting the results. The results for the winter administration are tentatively scheduled to come out in mid-April. So that means that the standard setting will have been completed, the registration committee will have approved the pass mark, we will have generated the results files, and the results will be disseminated. And that gives anybody who is unsuccessful on this administration time to register for the spring exam before registration for that exam closes. And then anybody who is successful on this administration will then be able to register for the skills exams, which will happen in the fall. Okay, well, oh, there's another question. For the exam registration, okay, so you're asking about the administration that's happening in the spring. Not sure if I understand your question. So you have to be a
I believe this is a prospective agent.
Okay, thank you, Tifan. So anybody who wants to write the examination has to be registered as a Class 3 agent in training in order to even be considered for the examination. So the deadline, actually, that's a good point. I'll put up the information with the deadlines for the upcoming administrations. I'll reshare my screen 1 second. Okay, so this is on the information patent agent qualifying examinations page. You can see that we have the 2025 dates listed. So for the spring exam, you have to register as a Class 3 agent in training by February 28th, 2025. And so at that point, that is when we would need to confirm your eligibility for the examinations if you have completed your 24 months of training. If you are still in progress with your training, but you'll have completed it before the exam date of June the 10th, then with your exam registration form, we request that your supervisor send in a letter of attestation confirming that you've completed the requirements. Question about government IDs accepted by the proctor. So any government issued ID that has a photo on it would be acceptable. So you could use a driver's license, you can use a passport, you can use a health card if that has a photo on it. Pretty much we need to confirm that the name that we've given to the exam providers is the name that is writing the exam, and that person matches the picture. So obviously that is an exam security thing. We want to make sure that the actual candidate is writing the exam and nobody is writing the exam in the candidate's place. So there aren't any very strict rules about that, but we need to make sure that it is a photo ID so that they can confirm your identity. Okay, so one of the questions is, what was the pass rate of the previous knowledge examination? That's a really good question. So the 2024 examinations were administered in March. On the trademark agent side, we had 58 writers and an 86% pass rate. On the patent side, we had 77 writers and a 96% pass rate. Another question is the pass rate for the knowledge exam was over 90%. Yes, I just mentioned that. Will CPATA maintain this rate for future exams? And that's a good question because we actually don't set a pass rate. The pass rate is what it is based on the competency demonstrated or not demonstrated by the candidates. So the first administration had a very high pass rate because all of the candidates that demonstrated competency on the exam were very highly prepared. For this examination, the pass rate might be higher, it might be lower, it might be the same. It really will depend on the cohort of candidates writing the examination. So there isn't a pass rate or a pass mark that we are chasing or trying to achieve. It is what it is depending on the cohort of the exam candidates. Of course. Obviously, we want as many people to demonstrate competency as possible. As the regulator, that is our goal, for people to be able to demonstrate the knowledge and the skills that they have to us to confirm to us that they are able to practice and ready to practice. So again, while we are not chasing any kind of pass rate or cut scores, they are what they are. We obviously want everybody to be successful. We do not want to hold people back if they are able to demonstrate their knowledge to us. All right. So as we wait and see if there are any other questions that come in. Oh, no, as soon as I start to say that, one more question comes in. If a question could be answered both as per latest amendment in practice in 2025, as well as those before December 2024, which one would apply? So that's why we go through the standard setting process. So the standard setting process, after the exam is administered, there is a group of subject matter experts, the panelists, that go through the standard setting process. And then there's another group of exam advisory group members that does the key validation. So if, when we're doing the item analysis, one of the questions shows up where there are some stats that don't make sense, like not a lot of people are getting a question right, or there is something else that is going on that shows up in the item analysis, then that item is flagged for review by the exam advisory group members, and that's when they decide what to do with that item. So, is there a key correction that needs to be made, or is there something that needs to be done to make sure that we take that into consideration or take that into account? So candidates would not be penalized if that type of situation occurs. We deal with that through the standard setting and key validation process. All right, as the final questions are typed into the Q&A box, I will start to wrap things up. I just wanted to thank our interpreters this afternoon. I'd like to thank my co-presenter Tifan and our CPATA admin staff, Vicky and Andres, for assisting us in setting up the webinar and doing the recordings. As Tifan mentioned, the recordings and the slides will be posted on the website in the next couple of days, as soon as we have all of that figured out and posted. So you'll receive a confirmation of registration, as I said, next Friday. It will link you back to the the slides as well as the recording, but you'll also be able to access them through the preparation page for the patent exams. So as soon as that's posted, you'll be able to view that there. It'll be in the same place where the registration link for the webinar was listed. But I think that that's pretty much all that we had to say today. Thank you again, everybody, for your participation and for your wonderful questions. If you have any additional questions or you think of something else, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at the registration department. If you need a French-speaking proctor, please, again, don't hesitate to reach out to our registration department and we will arrange for that with you for Monitor EDU. Otherwise, good luck, everybody, in the next couple of weeks. I wish you all the best in terms of your preparation and your writing of the exams. And Tifan, I don't know if you have any last minute words. No, you're good.
Same. Thank you very much for your participation, your questions. And if you have any concerns, questions, reach out to us. And good luck for the exams. We wish you all the best.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everybody. That will conclude the webinar for this afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.